Trauma to testimony encompasses the proclamation of the truth and narratives of believers who have endured trauma and shook up their pain and purposely walk daily in their victories, giving God their yes. We are standing and affirming Revelation 12:11 on this podcast. Listen, the surrender, the resurrection, overcoming trauma, the becoming better, the inner work you have to do, all heavy. Join me each week as we dissect the walk of faith we take as Christian women who have endured some of life's pain and struggles. We will dive into having the hard conversations to grow a deeper relationship with God. This right here is from my girls who have endured trauma but have a lot of Jesus. Welcome back to the Trauma to Testimony podcast. It's your girl Tony, and again, like always, I am excited to be here with you this week as we continue the Peace series, anchoring in Peace series. And today is going to be a good one. I feel like every episode is a good one because Holy Spirit is present. And let me tell you, I don't do this without him. So I definitely just love what we're going to be talking about today. So today we are going to be talking about, it really pains me to talk about it because I feel like it's one of those areas that God is, always working on me about. And today we're going to be talking about struggles with control and how that messes with you being anchored in God's peace. So first things first, we just gonna get the ball rolling. You can't trust God and control your life too. Story time. I can remember being in therapy and talking with my therapist about a specific situation, and she was just like, well, okay, so you want to control this situation. I get it. Okay. But you can't do that and trust God. I said, what? Y'all, my response was, what? What? Huh? It was one of the moments where you wanted to say something, like I wanted to say something back, but I was like, oh man, that one hurt because it's true. And that's the thing where at that point I felt like I had been controlling so long without even really recognizing that was just the way that I did things. I wasn't even aware of it. I just naturally did it because I'm like, okay, let me just control this. Let me plan out all these things. Let me over plan. Let me over strategize out everything so I can make sure that everything turns out perfect. Like down to the relationships in my life, down to what the plan is for my life, down to how I do this. And if I do it this right way with nothing out of place, my future has to be great, right? My life has to be great, right? The plans are going to work out. The vision is going to come to fruition, right? Wrong. Because at that point, it took for my life to really not add up to what I think and all my plans and all the hopes and dreams and everything that I seen to really, or wanted to really be like, wow, no. And I had to really navigate through that, even in my therapy journey. And I navigated through that personally as I journaled and spent time with God, because I started to recognize that, even in, my struggles with control, I recognized that I had a false reality of, who God was to me. I recognized that a lot of the times, and I really think that, and I'm going to speak on this because I think that a lot of us really struggle with this. It's like, okay, I want to control my life and call on God too. Ugh. Got to sit with that. I want to control my life and call on God too. It's like I'm going to God with all these plans and all these scenarios and all of these, strategized plans. Like, yeah, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then when this happens, I'm going to do this. And then I'm sure, like, God is like, what? But the plans I have for you are this. But the honest truth is, just control that part, and just believing in God and trusting in God, having all of this faith, and you going from waiting season to waiting season, and you're going from faith to faith and having to apply that, and you're trying to be in control. They cannot coexist. Let me not say that. Maybe they can coexist, but it's going to be a struggle. Take it from somebody who literally had to come to the realization that she is really a controlling Nancy. Like, control, want to control. But in the realness of all of that is, I was controlling so much because I didn't want to face anything that would harm me or hurt me. And that was what I had to recognize, through, just having my relationship with God, like spending time with God in the mornings and in times where, in the middle of the night now, when I was breastfeeding my daughter, like I would literally be up talking to God, like, okay, God, this situation is going on and I just don't know how to feel about it. And every time God would be like, you're going to have faith. You're going to have to trust me. You're going to have to do all of this. But it's like, well, God, if I don't know the next thing to do, then what am I supposed to do? But it's like, that's not really trusting God. That's not really, saying, God, you know what? This is yours. My life is yours. And the day I decided that years ago, I had to recognize, or, maybe back then I didn't recognize, but now I'm clear on my life is the Lord's and literally anything could happen, and I think that if that's like the reality check that, all believers have when they initially, like, I give my life, to Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, have your way with my life. It's like you literally are saying that to everything, and nothing is off guards, like nothing, like all of that. You're saying, God, who I am, what's attached to me, what's around me, what plans I had before I gave my life, all of that is yours. And, and that was really what now, I had to accept that. Like, control will have you out here really thinking or wanting control, and you having this on your own ways and plans for your life. It'll all make you think that you're in a way okay. It'll make you think that you can definitely control your life and trust God too. And that's not the way that it works. It works as, no, you're just on this faith journey, trusting God all the way. And you're going to have to release control. It's going to be hard, but today I really want to give you the encouragement about, if control is a struggle bus for you, because control is a struggle bus for me. And I definitely get that. And it comes from personally, and just being transparent, it comes from insecurity about safety and security. I know we talked about that on the last episode when it comes to trusting God, that, you really have to have a conversation with yourself about, just where you are emotionally, where you are mentally, where you are spiritually, and what's the holdup. Like, if you're struggling in your relationship with God, if you're struggling from hearing from God, if you're struggling just to connect with God, whether it be through the time that you spend with God, whether it be through you reading God's word and something's not connecting, all of that is speaking to something that is deeper, something that needs to come to the surface, something that there needs to be an actual realization about. So definitely having a conversation with yourself is going to help you out to know, okay, if I'm struggling with control, what do I feel like I need to control? What must I control in my life? And why do I need to control it? Like, when I seriously got honest about why I needed to control it, that's when I got the revelation from God about safety and security, about, just trying to figure out, why did I feel so unsafe? And navigating that just built the bridge for me to figure out so many other things that I was not healed from. So sometimes, in our relationship with God, and that's why I always speak about having that honest conversation with God in even in your quiet time and your prayer life. Like, the cutesy prayers ain't gonna access what's really hurting you on the inside. The cutesy prayers, you're not going to be able to say, God, you know what, I'm hurting from this. I don't feel safe. I feel like if I let my guard down, something gonna come and hurt me. Like, these are real experiences that I know that, for myself, being a trauma survivor, I know that I experienced that. And I'm sure that there are some of you that really experience that. Like, I don't feel safe. I don't feel secure. I feel like bad things happen to me. Come on now. Like, that's a real thing that I'm sure that I've said in therapy before. And these are the things that we need to check in with God. Like, we need to really check in with God about our healing journey if that's how we feel. Because if God is such a loving Father, but on our end, we're not feeling like those things add up for us, now it's time to check in. It's time to check in where your faith is as a believer. Like, do you really trust God, or is you having control, in the relationship? Is that okay for you to trust God? It's like, no, they cannot coexist, and it's like, if you're going to really go all in and trust God, you need to trust God and let control go. So now is the time to work on that releasing control of things, releasing what may or may not be, releasing the future. God has a plan for your life, so you have to start speaking that truth to yourself and start realizing that important check-in that you need is going to have to happen over and over again, especially if you struggle with control. So today, my prayer for you is that you will go to God and you will ask God about, the things in your life that you are controlling. The things in your life that you are controlling and you will not let go, and have an honest conversation with God about how to let go. Like, what are the steps I need to take, God? Ask God to send you to His Word. Send me to a Bible story that can help me to let go of this control. Send me the exact message that I need to release, God. And it's okay to say, God, this is hard. It's hard for me to see everything over the course of my life. And now all of a sudden I have to let go of the control. Maybe, and this is a part of my testimony, but maybe you had to, at a young age, go into being the one who cared for yourself because you felt like nobody could offer that care for you. and you had to control some situations. You felt like you had to, let's go back like what we talked about last episode, that survival mode. You had to go back to that, and that's what seems normal to you. But just because it seems normal to you doesn't make it right, and doesn't make it in alignment with God. So you definitely have to navigate just the truth of why that control is there, and God will give you insight to it. So, my prayer for you is that you go to God, and really talk about what resources could help you. What resources could help you with control? For me, I already could tell you, I already shared a lot on the podcast, and it's more so about, navigating my relationship with God, also going to therapy, because therapy gives me insight on my mind, because I'm just naturally a very self-aware person. Like, I'm always reflecting about everything in my life. Like, if somebody says something to me, I'm reflecting. If I'm having a conversation with somebody, I'm reflecting. If something happens and I'm like, that was strange, I'm reflecting. Like, I'm always trying to figure out how I can see. There go that control. See, look, a read on the podcast. No, but honestly, I'm always in reflection. Just because I'm just very aware. So when it comes to that, I recognize the resources that I need to put in place to make sure that, all right, I need to feel better. I need to be on my way. I need to heal. I need to ensure that my relationship is tight with God. Like, so today, get the help that you need. You gonna hear me say it, because I probably say this every podcast. Get the help that you need. It is okay to not be okay, but it is not okay to know that you're not okay, but not try to get the help that you need. And a lot of the times we get in a place where we struggle with something, but we won't get up and get what we need. And the hardest part about that may be taking the first step. Taking the first step. And I really just want to invite you into this time of, just prayer with God. Again, have prayer with God, and really get deep and intimate about what may be making you seek control of situations. What happened at a young age? What happened at an older age? What situations make you feel like, if I don't have control, then I feel like I'm all over the place, and really having that honest conversation, because at the end of the day, to get from trauma to testimony, that in between part is literally the choice to dwell in God, the choice to say, you know what, I'm making a decision that trauma is not my end, but testimony of my daily walk with God, testimony of my healing journey, testimony of me understanding where I am and understanding whose I am. That right there is what's important. When you make that choice to say, you know what, I'm no longer living by my trauma and my pain and my past and what happened to me, but I'm living fully for the Lord, that is the decision, and that is the day where everything changes. And I just really want to invite you into a time of prayer with God. Like, that is your action after this episode, is to go into prayer with God, whatever God lays on your heart. And if this episode is tugging at you, just know, if any part of this episode is tugging at you, just know that there's something there, and to talk to God about it, to be real about it. Like, this part of my journey, God, this part, it still mess with me. Yes, sometimes I go into this, into this spiral of anxiety, or I have this fear that this is going to happen. And then all of a sudden I start doing these things. God, I'm talking about having a real conversation with God. Like, I start doing these things to protect, me getting hurt, or to protect myself from ever experiencing that again. Because the thing is, God already knows. To know every strand on our head, and I think I mentioned this, but this is one of my favorite. I cannot remember exactly where it is, but it talks about God. I think it's Zephaniah. Yeah, I think it talks about God singing over us. And that right there just really is a beautiful thing, because that just shows just the love God has for us. And once I read that, I forgot which morning it was, but when I read it, I was like, wow. God to sing over you, like to think of God in a sense of singing over you, just like, it reminded me of, when I first brought my daughter home, and I was just looking at her, and I was gazing, and I was just in so much awe, and I was singing all of these songs, and trying to do all these things to make sure that she was cared for, and I was so captivated by who she was and her presence being in the home. And it reminds me of God's love for us, and how God looks at us, and he's captivated and taken away by his child, and all of the amazing things. And he's always making a way for us, making a plan for us, and he was singing over us. Like the beauty of songs over your child, or the beauty of songs, like thinking, you think about this melody that's playing, you think about all of what could be said and what could be thought about as the song is ministering to your heart. I think about that same thing every time, anytime I'm discouraged, or I'm going through something in a hard place in healing, I always think about just God's love, and what does that mean, and how is that magnified to me, personally, in healing. And I encourage you today to do that too. As you go into prayer, start thinking about all of the different ways and all the different things that God has brought you through, because that right there will help you to understand, just God's love for you. And I just pray that you really release control and let God have his way in your life. It's going to be a beautiful thing. So I definitely want to leave you with 2 Bible verses, because I know struggling with control is not an easy thing to go through. And I really want to give you some context on, just the encouragement that God has a plan for you, and God, whatever God has for you is the plan that God has for you is for you, and God's going to show you just the beauty in that. So the Bible verses that we are going to read today are Jeremiah 29:11 and Proverbs 16 verses 1 through 9. Okay, so Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. Proverbs 16 verses 1 through 9. To humans belong the plans of the heart, but from the Lord comes the proper answer of the tongue. All a person's ways seem pure to them, but motives are weighed by the Lord. Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans. The Lord works out everything to its proper end, even the wicked for a day of disaster. The Lord detests all the proud of heart. Be sure of this. They will not go unpunished. Through love and faithfulness, sin is atoned for. Through the fear of the Lord, evil is avoided. When the Lord takes pleasure in anyone's way, he causes their enemies to make peace with them. Better a little with righteousness than much gain with injustice. In their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. Follow God's plan for your life. Seek God on behalf of the things that may be worrying you, the things that give you fear and doubt and any other emotions. Right there, seek God on behalf of that. And God will establish your steps. You don't have to try to figure it out. You don't have to try to be something that you're not. You don't have to be in chaos or all in a whirlwind in your healing journey because you're trying to figure out, how will I ever get over this? How can I have control so that I won't get hurt? How can I have control of this so I won't feel like I'm, going down the same road? It's like, no, seek God. Seek ye first the kingdom before you do anything. In all things, seek God. You may think that it seems impossible. It seems impossible to heal. It seems impossible to believe that I can live this healed life. It seems impossible that I keep, seeing and hearing from God all these promises he has for me, but it don't feel like I'm worthy enough for it. But no, nothing is impossible with God. Nothing can separate us from the love of God. Okay, it's time to speak those truths to you. That's why God's word is alive, and it's important for you to go and seek God on behalf of your healing, on behalf of what you're struggling with. And if control is that thing, just know that you can give up the thing that you're trying to control and let God have his way. You don't have to control it anymore. Safety and security is in God. You no longer have to run around. You no longer have to feel like, you're going halfway crazy, or you feel like things are just not adding up. You don't have to do that anymore. You don't have to do that anymore. Because when you have a relationship with God, and when you're putting, just all of this trust and faith in God, you're putting all of your eggs in one basket. It's no need to spread it out. It's no need to have a plan B. It's no need to try to figure out how you can come if God don't come through, because that's not it. God's going to always come through in perfect timing. It's time to let go of control. His plan, his master plan, is for your good. God is already working it out. And I declare that for you today. God is already working it out. It's not what it seems. But tap into God. Tap into God. Tap into God so that he can give you the insight that you need. Oh, I hear surrender. Surrender it today. What you've been holding is too heavy. What you're trying to control is too heavy. It's time to let go and let God. Oh, my prayer for you is that today be the day that you release the control. That is it for this week's episode. I will talk to you next week. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode. I hope that it has impacted you in a very special way. Share this episode with a friend who may need inspiration in this area. Screenshot this week's episode and let us know what you think about this episode. And tag us on Instagram at Trauma to Testimony. If this did a tug on your heart, I want to invite you to stick around with us and join our email list and Healing Bestie support community. The links are down in the show notes. And until next time, let's heal, bestie. Let's heal together. Heal with you next week.